Hello. In this video, I am reviewing the character of Maddie Morrow in Havenfall by Sarah Holland. If you want my more general overview of the book, you should watch my previous video. There will be some light spoilers in this video, so if you're sensitive, watch out. So, our character, our main protagonist is Maddie Morrow, and already we're off to a good start. She's got that superhero alliteration thing going on. She is a teenager. She is very impulsive, but she's also very loving and she has a very strong conscience. She also has a very strong level of imposter syndrome and a lack of self confidence. But she also has a very strong sense of self, which is exhibited very early on in the book, where she says things like, what does it matter if I've got short hair? Or what does it matter if I like boys or girls? Which is mentioned in the middle of a list, which was quite an interesting method on Sarah Holland's part to insert this little tidbit of information about her sexuality in the middle of a list, saying that it's just as important as her hair being cut short. It's a part of her and it doesn't really matter. So she has this strong sense of who she is and herself, but she's constantly struggling between this strong sense of self and the lack of confidence and her imposter syndrome. So she starts off the book as a minor character, as the niece of Marcus, who is her uncle who runs Havenfall, the inn, and she's very quickly thrust into being a major character. She is thrust into being the innkeeper when her uncle is injured. And this type of major role is something in her real life that she's always avoided. Because at home she gets bullied, her mum's in prison, she keeps her head down. But in her Havenfall life, being the innkeeper is all she's ever wanted. And now suddenly she's got it, but she's got it in the worst way possible. And suddenly, just all sense of who she could have been, it just starts tumbling and she goes into a bit of a free fall. And a lot of the beginning of the novel focuses on how important life at the inn and Havenfall in general is to her, and that's really apparent in the cover. So you can see that this is Havenfall and this is Maddie. So just literally, she is Havenfall and Havenfall is her. And then, as a little side note, you can see Havenfall, fall is mirrored, and then we take a line and we run across the back, and then here is Mirror Lake, which forms a very important part of the story. And then you flip back, and that's Havenfall. I loved that. This is a really nice bit of graphic design there. So, her imposter syndrome. At the beginning, it doesn't really have much grounds in the real world. It's quite normal. She feels like she's not enough, she's not good enough, and that when her brother was killed when they were young, that it was her fault. And then all this stuff starts going down in the novel, and suddenly her real world starts to reflect her internal world. So suddenly she's trying to run the inn, and she doesn't know how to mediate diplomatic negotiations. She doesn't know how to deal with trade information and trying to organize all this stuff. So she starts to go into a bit of a free fall, and her internal thoughts are catapulted back to when she was a little girl, when her whole world fell apart and her brother was killed and her mum went to jail, and it's just starting to get all a bit much. And throughout her life, she has been failed by every single adult. Her mum didn't tell the police what really happened with her brother and has gone to jail and is now a bit of a zombie, really. Her dad refuses to believe her when she tries to tell him about the most important aspect of her life, which is Havenfall. And her uncle Marcus, he just kind of shows up in the summer times in her life. He's a temporary figure. He's like that cool uncle who you just see every so often. And when things start to go badly, she blames herself because she's never had any structure or any type of help to deal with these terrible emotional situations. But then she goes on a journey and she jumps into the deep end and she has to deal with these problems the best way that she can. And by the end of the book, she has a near death experience and she deals with it in about the same way that she dealt with having to chair a meeting at the beginning. Shaky, but kinda managed. So that was such an amazing transformation in quite a short amount of time. Because I think the novel only takes part over a week or two, give or take. And by the middle and towards the end, she really starts to trust herself and to trust that she knows what she's doing and to trust her decision making. And one of the ways that this is represented is in her name. So at the beginning, she is Maddie. Hey Maddie, how you doing? Maddie, 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 Maddie. But then the Silver Prince shows up. I've forgotten which realm he comes from. Is it Bern? I don't know. The Silver Prince, he's from one of the realms. He's quite important. He shows up and he calls her Madeline, immediately showing that he thinks that she's above Maddie. He thinks that she is mature enough and experienced enough to be able to handle what's going on. And very slowly, as the novel progresses, she also starts to refer to herself as Madeline when she is feeling a bit nervous and she needs to encourage herself and make herself feel stronger. And then she represents herself to the world as Madeline. And then we get to the climax, page 287, where somebody shouts out, Havenfall deserves someone strong at its head, he calls out. Power wants power, Maddie Morrow, and you're not enough. But by this point, she's been through a lot. She's had to do a lot, she's been betrayed, she's had to betray. Did she betray someone? I don't think so. She's had to do a lot. But by this point, she's been through a lot. She's been betrayed, she's learned new things, she's done so much and that she never thought she could do, and she's managed to do them. Some things she did better than others, but she's managed to do them. And by this point, she's just like, no, I'm not dealing with your shit. We're done. And she has gained enough experience, yes, but also confidence in herself to be able to push things through and beat the bad guys. Thank you for watching. This was my character analysis of Madeline Morrow from Havenfall by Sarah Holland. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the comments.